Alright guys, so today we're going to be talking about angle pairs. We're going to talk about four specifically: supplementary, complementary, vertical, and linear pairs. Alright, so we're going to start with supplementary angles. I'm going to give you guys a quick definition, some examples, a picture, and then an example. So then we should be good. So, supplementary angles are angles that add up to 180 degrees. Alright, this can be two or more angles. Alright, and supplementary angles can be adjacent, which means next to each other. Or they can be separate. Alright, so if they're adjacent, it's going to look something like this. We're going to have a line. So straight lines are always 180 degrees. That is cut with another line. We're going to have angle 1 in here and angle 2 in here. Alright, so that's what they look like when they're adjacent. When they are separate, you're going to have the same two angles. Angle 1 and angle 2. They're just not on that same line. Alright, what is important to note here is that when we take angle 1 and add it to angle 2, this is always going to equal 180 degrees. Right? So angles that add up to 180 degrees, and they can be adjacent or they can be separate. So what is important to remember is this right here, that they will always add up to 180 degrees. Alright, so we're going to look at this example really quickly, and what we're doing here is we're looking for this measure of this angle B. So first thing I'm going to do is label these as angle 1 and angle 2, and then I'm going to write out that equation at the top. So I have angle 1 plus angle 2, and that equals 180 degrees. And I'm going to go through and substitute what the problem gives me. So instead of angle 1, I'm going to write 79 degrees plus angle 2. Instead of angle 2, I'm going to write the letter B, equals 180 degrees. So now that I have this information set up, all I need to do is get B by itself. So to do that, I'm going to subtract that 79 from both sides, which is going to give me 180 minus 79 is 101 degrees, equals B. And that is my answer. Easy. Alright, next type of angle that we're going to talk about is a complementary angle. So complementary angles are angles that add up to 90 degrees. Alright, so these angles have to be next to each other. And I'm going to show you why that is. So next to each other or adjacent. Alright, so I'm going to draw out a right angle. And for us to know that it's a right angle, we always want to look to see that it has this box in the corner. I'm drawing it in purple. So if you have that box, actually I'm going to draw it in red because you can't really see it. So if you have that box, you know that it means 90 degrees. And if I split that into two angles, I'm going to label this angle 1 and angle 2. That means they're complementary. So angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 90 degrees. So it's 90 instead of 180 for complementary. Alright, so we're going to do another example. Same as the example before, we're just solving for that angle B. And I'm going to label that as angle 1 and 54 as angle 2. I'm going to set up my equation same as before. I have angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 90, and I'm going to substitute what the problem gives me. So instead of angle 1, I'm going to write B plus, instead of angle 2, I'm going to write 54 equals 90. And now I'm going to solve for B. And to get that by itself, I'm going to subtract 54 from both sides. That's going to cancel. 90 minus 54 is 36. And B equals 36, same as the problem before. So we want to set up our problems and always use this equation up here. Alright, next one we're going to talk about is vertical angles. So vertical angles are angles that are across from each other. Oops. Move a line down. Angles that are across from or opposite each other. And what's important about vertical angles is that they are congruent. That's not going to fit. Congruent or equal, which means they have the same measure. Alright, so I'm going to draw my two lines. And I'm going to label this, let's go one, two, and 4. So in this example right here, angle 4 and angle 2 are vertical, and angle 1 are also vertical. So we're going to write this out as angle 1 equals angle 3, or angle 4 equals angle 2. Both of these statements are true. Alright, now we're going to look at our example. So I'm going to do the same thing, just label them as I did for 2 and 1 and 3. So I don't have angles 1 and 3, but I do have angles 2 and 4, which means I'm going to use this part of my statement to solve my problem. So I know that angle 4 is going to equal angle 2. I don't know the measure of angle 4, but I do know it's represented by this letter B. So I'm going to write in my B equals angle 2, which is 42, and that is my answer. So if angle 2 is 42, angle 4 will also be 42 degrees. Alright, and the last one that we're going to talk about are linear pairs. So linear pairs are two angles that form a line. Right, this has to be two angles because it's only a pair. And linear pairs are supplementary, which means that they add up to 180 degrees. So this is going to come in very handy when we are moving to talk about transversals. But for right now, I'm just going to do an example like I did for the vertical angles. And I'm going to label them 1, 2, 3, and 4. And what we're going to do is just list out all of the linear pairs. Alright, so I'm going to start with angle 1. And we're going to show that they're linear pairs by adding them up and setting them equal to 180. So if I start with angle 1 is a linear pair with angle 2, but angle 1 is also a linear pair with angle 4 because they also form that straight line. And all these equal 180. Alright, now let's look at angle 2. So we already know that angle 2 is going to be a linear pair with angle 1. We have it here already. Angle 2 is also going to be a linear pair with angle 3. So let's write that. Angle 2 plus angle 3 also equals 180 degrees. Alright, now let's look at angle 3. Angle 3 is going to be a linear pair with angle 2, which is what we wrote here. But it's also going to be a linear pair with angle 4. So angle 3 plus angle 4 also equal 180 degrees. Alright, so these are all 4 of our linear pairs for this example. And this is going to come in handy when we, again, look at transversal angles. So I'm going to go through and highlight. Linear pairs are supplementary and they form a line. Alright, and for vertical angles, just to recap, they are across from each other and they are congruent. Alright, complementary angles add up to 90 degrees and they are adjacent. For complementary angles, you can have more than 2. So it can be 2 or more angles. Alright, so now that we have our notes, we're going to go ahead and move on to some examples. So for example set 1, we're going to do the same thing as we did for the notes and just solve for the measures of the missing angles. So we're going to start with number 1. So first thing we have to do is identify any information that the problem gives us. So here I see that red box, and that red box means that this is 90 degrees or a right angle, which means that these two angles are complementary. So I'm going to label those as angle 2 and angle 1. So if they're complementary, I know that angle 1 plus angle 2 is going to give me 90 degrees. So I'm going to substitute. I have 27, which is angle 1, plus B, which is angle 2, equals 90. So now I have to solve for B. And to do that, I'm going to subtract 27 from both sides to get B by itself. 90 minus 27 is 53 equals B, and there is my answer. So B equals 53 degrees. All right, now let's look at number 2. So number 2 kind of looks like the example we did for a vertical angle, but we have to pay attention to where that B is. So because that B is next to the 105, that means that this is a supplementary, let's do it in red. These are supplementary angles, which means that they're going to add up to 180. I'm going to go angle 1 and angle 2. So angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. I'm going to go through and substitute what I know. So instead of angle 1, I'm going to write B plus 105, which is angle 2, equals 180. And I want to get B by itself, so I'm going to subtract that 105 from both sides. That's going to cancel. And I have 105 minus 180 minus 105 is going to give me 75 equals B, and there's my answer. Awesome. Last one. So I have angles that are across from each other, so that means that they are vertical, which means that they are congruent. So let's say I have angle 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know that angle 1 equals angle 3. So if angle 1 is B and angle 3 is 83, that means that B equals 83. Vertical angles, easy, they're just congruent. All right, so for example set 2, we're going to tie in a little bit more of our algebra skills, and we're actually going to solve for x in each problem. We're going to do the same thing first and identify what kind of angle we have. This one was complementary. So let's look at number 1 here. So again, I have my box, which means 90 degrees, which means that I have a complementary angle. So let's go ahead and label that angle 1 and angle 2. And because they're complementary, I know that angle 1 plus angle 2 equal 90 degrees. Alright, so I'm going to take, I don't have any numbers, but I do have these expressions. So I'm going to take each expression and substitute it into my equation that I have here. So instead of angle 1, I'm going to write 6x plus 4 plus, instead of angle 2, I'm going to write 5 plus 3x, and all of this is going to equal 90 degrees. So before I start solving for x, I want to combine my like terms first. So I'm going to go through all of my x's, I'm going to add together, and then all of my numbers I'm going to add together. Alright, so 6x plus 3x is going to give me 9x, taking everything that's in yellow. And I'm going to add that to 4 plus 5 is 9, everything that's in green, and this all equals 90. And now we just have a two-step equation. So I want to get x by itself, so I have to get rid of this 9 first. I'm going to subtract 9 and subtract 9. That's going to cancel, and I'm left with 9x equals 81. The last thing I'm going to do is divide by 9 on both sides, which is going to give me x equals 9, which will be my final answer. All right, looks a little bit difficult, but we just have to take what we know and substitute and keep our numbers in order. All right, now let's look at number 2. So I have these two angles. Let's label them angle 1 and angle 2. And they form that straight line, so I know that they are supplementary. Which means that they equal 180 degrees. So I'm going to write out my equation. Angle 1 plus angle 2 equals 180 degrees. And I'm going to do the same thing as I did before and take the expressions that are given for each angle and substitute those in. So I have 2x plus 2 instead of angle 1 plus 6x plus 2 instead of angle 2, and this equals 180 degrees. So I'm going to combine my like terms first. So all of my x's I'm putting in yellow, and all of my numbers I'm putting in green. So that means I'm going to go 2x plus 6x, which is going to give me 8x, plus 2 plus 2 is 4, which equals 180. All right, and I have a two-step equation again. I'm going to get rid of my 4 on both sides. So 8x equals 176. And I'm going to divide by 8 on both sides to get x by itself. So I have x equals, let me put that in my calculator, 176 divided by 8 is 22. So my answer is x equals 22. All right. And my last example that I'm going to do with you guys, I have 84 and 5x equals 4, and I have my vertical angles. So I'm just going to label these as 1 and 3. So angle 1 equals angle 3. So I'm going to take 84 and write that in instead of angle 1 equals 5x plus 4. And then all we have to do is solve for x. We have a two-step equation. Get rid of my number, so minus 4 on both sides. 84 minus 4 gives me 80. Equals 5x. 4 minus 4 is 0. The last step is to divide by 5. So x is 80 divided by 5, which is 16. Alright guys, these notes are going up on Google Classroom with the assignment that goes with this lesson. Feel free to refer back to these notes and this video